come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Hey everyone, welcome to the second episode of The Conquest of Popcorn. I'm Pinko.
And I'm Barto. And we're back for another riveting film that we think you should probably go watch and think about before you join us with this. And, pirate it somewhere.
Yes. Brief content warning. There's a lot of police violence in this film.
There is a lot of police violence in this film. And none of it is, looked at as good, but it is there.
Yeah, so if you are bothered by stuff like that, maybe skip this one.
Yeah. But, before we begin, how was your week?
I was pretty sick, but I'm back from the dead.
Congratulations.
Had a very nasty bout of strep throat, which made it impossible to do a podcast.
Yeah, so sorry we're a little late.
And thanks to everyone who sent me their sympathies on Twitter. Yeah, I appreciate you putting up with my whining.
Yeah, and the starter for my car died, and I had an amazing outpouring of fiscal support, which was like fucking incredible. And lots of people didn't put ats in stuff in the messages that they sent me when they were helping me out, and I really wanted to thank everyone individually, and it just became impossible, but I really appreciate all the help I received. That was fucking cool. And like
people are great.
People
in our little corner of the internet.
Great. People are wonderful, and I just it totally blew my mind to get support like that. Anyways, thank you everybody who's listening, who helped me out. For those who didn't help me out, I love you too. Thanks for listening. It's great.
We also just love regular thoughts and prayers. We accept those too.
Yeah. We got a lot of really positive feedback for the last episode, which also was really cool.
Yeah, really encouraging.
It was really encouraging. I said and a lot in the last one.
I coughed a lot.
There was a lot of coughing.
I had a stuffy nose.
And I'm working hard this week to eliminate my ums and ahs. And
and I haven't been around children in several days. So for those of you who don't follow me, I work with kids. That's why I'm sick all the time. Kids are disgusting. I love them, but they're disgusting.
They are just little germ factories.
Yeah.
I don't know much about biology, but I am pretty sure that's where all germs come from.
Yeah, our friend Vladimir on Twitter said that kids are the hipsters of germs. They get the things that nobody has seen yet.
Woo. Yeah, shout out to Vladimir Lenin.
P.L. Lenin.
Yeah, P.L. Lenin.
I got his at wrong in my follow.
There is a Vladimir Lenin, but it's one of those, like...
imposters.
Bashar al-Assad, the lion of Syria dudes, who also like tweets or like blogs about his good carpeting experiences in southern Texas or whatever.
He's a weird dude.
Anyways, this movie that we're going to talk about this week, a classic, one of Twitter's favorite things to meme. Yeah. John Carpenter's They Live.
Yeah.
Starring
Roddy Piper.
Roddy
who
Piper.
Who has the coolest name, but I don't really know anything about him.
He was a very notable professional wrestler for the WWF in the 80s. A brief movie star. I really only know him from this, the just awful Hell Comes to Frogtown.
Oh, that movie sucks.
And
we almost talked about that movie in this episode. We were going to talk about both of them, but I don't know. I just really hated it. It might also be that I was on a lot of like cold medicine.
No, I mean, it's really bad.
It.
You aren't wrong to hate Hell Comes to Frogtown. I think there's like entertainment value in it, but in just how tremendously bad it is. Man, it is windy outside.
I think we're gonna blow away.
We're gonna blow away.
Oh my god!
But the only reason we were going to talk about both of them is they came out in the same year, and they're like absolutely ideologically opposed from one another. And then the only other thing I know him from is playing like a destitute version of himself in Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Fun fact, I have a friend who used to work for someone who did faux taxidermy, and she made the dead dog that's in one of the episodes of that show.
Oh my god. What a cool little like accolade to have on your belt. You know?
That I know somebody.
No, not you. I'm sorry. Your
My
friend who made the dead dog.
This is like how many steps from fame are you?
Yeah.
I'm a step closer because I knew Megan in college.
If you reached out and touched, you could rub Danny DeVito's head.
Oh, I would love to rub his head.
One day. But this movie was made 1987 at the tail end of the Reagan 80s, when social stratification was like just really, really shitty. The Reaganomics had, created an even great. I mean, the rift between the middle class was dissolving, and the rift between the very rich and the very poor was growing for years and years and years. But Reagan did nothing to help.
No.
And this movie like throws us right into the middle of that. We have our hero played by Rowdy Piper, named George Nada.
The Nowhere Man.
Yeah, I mean the Nada, I think, is Spanish for nothing.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's nowhere. He's nothing. He's a vagabond who's drifting into L.A. looking for work, and we see all these shots of just how rotten LA is. There's poverty everywhere. It's dirty. He goes into the unemployment office, and over the loudspeaker they say, "Don't because of a computer error.
Food stamps are suspended, so don't apply."
Yeah, food. Yeah, we're witnessing it in front of him.
The breakdown of the social safety net.
Yeah. He goes...
The lady has no work for him.
Yeah, he goes
She says it to him with such contempt.
Yeah, he's been working for 10 years and it all just dried up. And she's like, "Well, we have nothing for you."
After having him go through his resume...
Yeah.
It seemed like she knew they had nothing.
Yeah.
She just wanted to make him jump through the hoops
anyway. Just plant that little false hope, like this conversation is worthwhile.
Yeah.
But after the unemployment office, he goes outside and we meet this reoccurring character for someone who's reoccurring for a little while, who's this blind preacher who is preaching about
greed, and
people being asleep.
Yes, people are asleep.
Which is two of the reoccurring themes in this movie.
And he has kind of a little crowd around him until two policemen step out of a cruiser with rifles.
Yeah, an even more reoccurring theme in this movie.
Police violence.
Yeah, police violence.
The oppressive state.
Right. So he eventually finds a job at a construction site, and he meets Frank, who's played by Keith David. Most notably, one of the better actors in The Thing, another John Carpenter movie, but he's also a trained boxer and a musician and drummer and composer and all this great stuff. but it didn't have an awesome movie career despite being in a couple really awesome movies. But they go after the day's work. Rowdy Roddy Piper is sitting having a drink of water, and the foreman shows up.
Right.
And the foreman is
very rude to him.
The foreman is super fucking rude.
Yeah, he just sees George sitting there drinking his water after busting his ass all day, and he's just like, "You can't sleep here. Make sure you take your ass somewhere else." It's pretty ridiculous and uncalled for. And
Frank is nice enough to lead Rowdy Roddy Piper to Justiceville.
Well, he's George is a bit resistant to be led at first.
Yeah, there's
they have a weird relationship, these two.
They have a very strange relationship.
Frank offers friendship and George rejects it initially and then follows him without telling him.
Yeah,
until Frank is like, "Why are you following me?"
Yeah. And it's like Frank says something like, "I'm always uncomfortable with someone who's following me," and George is just says something along the lines of "Well, I don't want to follow someone or agree to go with someone until I know where I'm going," or whatever.
Which he told him where he was going in the
beginning. A homeless encampment. And it's
a place to sleep.
The best damn homeless encampment around.
It's like a commune almost.
Yeah, they get there.
Like a squat commune. It's pretty rad.
I mean, it's junk construction all around,
Yeah.
But
it's kind of like a Hooverville.
They get there and there's promise of food and...
Yeah, there's people serving food. They've got showers.
Showers, yeah. The guy running it is super excited that George Nada has tools so that he could help, fix the showers and things like that.
It's the complete opposite of everything George has encountered so far. It's welcoming. His skills are appreciated.
Yeah, there's a general sense of mutual aid.
There's solidarity there.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. They have a conversation about class conflict.
Yes, they do. Frank mentions that he is in LA because the steel mill he worked for in Detroit got shut down or closed down after the owners had taken a government bailout and then essentially pocketed it and then laid everyone off. And he comments that he would like to take a sledge to their fancy fucking foreign cars.
And, George being
He believes in the American dream. George does.
Yeah, George.
He tells him he needs to have patience.
Yeah. And, we're all coming on hard times right now.
Yeah.
Which is, obviously not true.
I think it was kind of a condescending thing to say to someone who was cheated so badly. I mean, clearly we wouldn't be coming on hard times if it weren't for scum like these factory owners taking a bailout and putting it in their pocket.
Right. And John, or George, I keep calling him John. George Nada, initially is, a big proponent of the American dream and incrementalist.
He gestures to the skyline, says, "I believe in America."
Yeah, when you look at America as a series of skylines, it's really beautiful. Very beautiful. Yeah, agreed. I'm a Chicago boy, and let me tell you, when you look at Chicago on a postcard, it looks wonderful.
Can't say that much for Wilmington.
No.
I mean, there's this one little spot on 95 when you're going in where it looks like it might be a proper city. There's this hill with the houses and the churches. And then over here you have downtown, and then you actually get off the exit and realize you're in just the shittiest little city. Yeah,
it's not proper. But whatever the case, we have George the incrementalist, and we have Frank the really angry, cheated worker. But the first night at Justiceville, they're huddled around the TV, and this message interrupts the broadcast.
Our impulses are being redirected. We are living in an artificially induced state of consciousness that resembles sleep.
Yeah, somebody has hacked into the airwaves.
And they're talking about how they are controlling us. They are all around us, and they've been keeping us asleep. And
the lizard people.
Well, yeah.
The globalists.
And
my Alex Jones is really bad. I'm sorry. Can we cut in some Alex Jones?
It's basically an intergalactic invasion into this space through people.
I can do a good Alex Jones, but I feel so trite, I could just say the globalists, over and over. I could talk about the lizard people.
You could hawk some supplements.
Yeah, I could hawk a loogie, because talking like that is painful, and I don't really think he talks that way.
No.
But there is, this thing happened, I think it was a year ago, where all these people on the alt-right started in the same way that, what's his name, tried to claim Depeche Mode as
Richard Spencer.
Yeah, Richard Spencer tried to claim Depeche Mode as
and then Depeche Mode told him to fuck off.
Right.
The music of the alt-right, I think.
The music of the official soundtrack of the alt-right, and Depeche Mode was like, "Fuck you." The alt-right was like, "They Live" is a movie about the Jewish conspiracy. They are the Jews, and it was pervasive enough where John Carpenter spoke up and was like, fuck you, knuckleheads. That's absolutely not what this movie is about.
I can see where somebody might have gotten that just in the current context, where when we talk about the shady people controlling things, it's almost always some sort of thinly veiled anti-Semitic conspiracy theory.
Right. It's very strange. This is a strange thing to me that we don't talk about enough. This idea that Trump has brought the idea of the globalists into common parlance, when that was purely an anti-Semitic dog whistle for years and years and years. That was more in the fringes. Yeah.
Well, he's kind of a fringe guy.
He is a fringe guy. He's brought the fringes out. But it was people who were talking about the Illuminati and the Bilderberg group and things like that.
Lizard people.
And lizard people. And who are all, again, it was all anti-Semitic coded messaging pretty much. Because, it's wizards and stuff like that. But
was this a thing in the 80s when this movie came out? Was there... there of course there's been anti-Semitism for ever, but at this moment in popular culture, would people have reasonably seen this movie and thought they is Jews?
I don't think so. I was a pretty woke infant when this movie came out, but
I was a woke fetus.
Yeah, as far as I know, the average pop culture viewer would not have looked at this movie and been like, well, this is a movie about the Jewish conspiracy, who's controlling all our banks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's definitely possible, but that some people would have absolutely taken that away. But there was no way there'd be this consensus among viewers that this is a right-wing conspiracy movie.
Yeah.
And again, why this is cool, because it's explicitly not. It's explicitly, there's this working class.
Well, they
message.
say multiple times that racial justice is being put aside in favor of, greed and pursuit of profit.
Right.
They talk about racial justice and social justice being repressed, which a right-winger would never say.
No, yeah, absolutely. It's
I mean, they would, but they would say it in some twisted, ridiculous way.
Right, absolutely. I mean, it's weird to me that you could watch this movie and take in the whole thing and not just be like, there are these actors behind the curtains, you know, which is part of the message of this movie, that there are these people behind the curtains that we'll get to, you know, who are doing things to our world, and ignoring all the other sort of racial and class solidarity things that are going on throughout the film.
People see what they want to see in movies, especially the right wing crowd.
I mean, yeah, me too.
Yeah, but I mean, come on, this movie it's not subtle.
No, yeah, it's pretty heavy-handed.
Here's a theme. All the movies we do have very heavy-handed delivery of their ideologies.
Yeah, because we're not that clever. Whatever the case, so there's this broadcast going on.
Right.
And they're talking about
sitting around outside watching TV.
Yeah, absolutely.
As you can only do in LA.
At Justiceville. And the people watching it are immediately agitated by it and start getting headaches.
Yeah.
Which is the start of this theme, which I guess Nada's rejection of the idea that there's something really fucked up in the general organization of capitalism and things like that, you know, that Frank sort of presents him. But this is there's this sort of violent reaction to having the shifting the ideological lens of people in this movie. And headaches are the first sign of this, really.
Yeah, people don't want to get woke.
Yeah, they don't want to get woke.
They don't want to take the red pill.
They don't. There's some indication that the church that's helping out with this encampment is somehow involved with this. We see this connection between our blind preacher friend and the church and this broadcast. And the next day, our hero goes to investigate.
Yes. So, George Nada walks into the church, and he finds himself in, like, an office. It looks like there's boxes stacked everywhere, and on the table there are sunglasses.
There's tons of sunglasses.
And he hears choir music, but he notices some wires sticking out of the wall, and he follows the wires and discovers that the choir music is a tape recording.
The church is essentially a sham.
The music is purely there to cover up the conversation they're having regarding their inability to maintain control of the airwaves.
Yeah. They're talking about getting their message over the airwaves and how they're having trouble doing that, and whether or not they should distribute the Hoffman glasses or the Hoffman lenses to the street. And that's, I think the name Hoffman lenses is worth keeping in mind, and we'll come back to that a little bit.
Put a pin in that one.
But a police helicopter flies overhead, and Nada realizes there's something that, something's up. The state knows what's up. Everyone in the church gets really agitated about the police helicopter. And that night, there's a police raid on Justiceville. It's pretty brutal, and it's one of those, like, in contrast to, again, this, like, very multi-ethnic harmonious encampment. We have this all-white police force coming in. They have shotguns. They have bulldozers.
It's the most realistic portrayal of police I've seen in a movie.
Yeah, it's pretty. I mean, it's over the top in like the best, most accurate way possible. And there's,
I mean, police violence is often very over the top.
It's over the top.
Just, I don't know. You've been at protests. I've been at protests.
Yeah.
The response is,
Yeah, it felt like that in this just, it looked like any time I've been at an action where police are like, we are going to take control of this situation now.
Right.
Which is a terrifying moment.
Yeah.
Not
fun.
You know, they're beating the preacher, which is oddly, you know, this is a number of years before Rodney King.
Yeah, that was in 1992. Rodney King riots, but yeah, it looks very similar. Like it's eerie.
Yeah,
how similar it looks to the Rodney King beating.
Yeah, and
which hadn't happened yet when this movie came out.
But Piper escapes and meets up again with this, you know, this group of people hiding out.
You mean
Rowdy Ryder, George Nada.
You keep switching back and forth.
Yeah, I do. I expect our audience to be astute listeners and be able to figure out what the fuck I'm talking about.
Okay.
But yeah, again, meets up with all these other people who the only thing alike that makes all of them alike is that they're all
blonde white people, except for the one black guy.
Well, yeah. I mean,
there's something I've noticed in this movie. Almost every white person in it is blonde. Yeah. I think it's just the 80s. It was the style of the time, like these tanned blonde people. Blonde. But just everyone else is fairly diverse, but all the white people look like Roddy Piper.
Yeah, it's a little strange.
They look like they were,
but not as strong as Roddy Piper.
Good old boys from the Midwest who, for some reason, have found themselves in LA.
But whatever the case, the next day he goes back to this church, which has been ransacked. It was clearly, you know, like the camp was, you know, cover for destroying whatever's going on in this church.
Yes.
But he breaks down a wall where he, the day before, had stumbled upon all these cardboard boxes, and he grabs one of the boxes and runs away with it.
The only box left.
The only box left.
You saw them loading boxes into a car when they first noticed the police during the day.
Right. And he goes to an alley and opens the box, and it's just filled with these sunglasses.
So he hides the box.
Yeah, in a fucking garbage can.
Terrible place to hide something.
Worst place to hide anything for more than like 10 minutes. I don't know. It's like
a bin out waiting for the garbage man to come. But he does take one pair of sunglasses.
He does take a pair of sunglasses. But I'm just like, I think about, you know, like when you're in like a no parking spot and you put your blinkers on your car and you like go inside and you're like fucking like, I'm gonna get a fucking ticket, you know, I gotta get whatever I'm doing, I have to hurry.
You can't give me a ticket.
I have to hurry up. And I would have that exact same anxiety with whatever I threw in this garbage can, and he doesn't seem there's no afterthought about this.
George Nada is not the most I want to say this nicely. He doesn't think ahead very well in this movie throughout.
No, he's not. Yeah, he does not have a lot of forethought. He's not a man with a plan.
No, he's not. He's just kind of going through the motions.
He is.
I guess that's part of the life of a wandering man.
Yeah, a vagabond
rolling into town to get some work.
but he has these sunglasses now, these Hoffman lenses. And he's walking down the street and he puts them on.
Pretty cool.
Yeah,
They're
very
cool. Sunglasses.
Yeah, no, and I wouldn't wear them, but
I would totally wear them.
Yeah, you could rock them.
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, when I shop for sunglasses, I basically go into a store and find the biggest lenses I can find. Yeah. And those are some pretty big lenses.
Well, we're going to find you a pair of Hoffman lenses.
Please.
Yeah. And so you could wake the fuck up.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what he does. He puts on the lenses and it's everything. The first thing he notices is that the world is in black and white, which I will come back to also. There's some debate over this, but and then he starts, and then the meme happens.
Yes, him looking up at a billboard with the glasses and going, "Oh God!"
And it's these what once was billboards, ads for things, is now these stark. It's white background text, big bold black text.
Obey.
Yeah,
and marry and reproduce.
Yeah, there's this. He looks at this advertisement that's a picture of a beautiful woman in the Caribbean or the Bahamas or something like that, and he puts on the glasses and it says "marry and reproduce." He looks at a man holding a bundle of cash that says
"This is your God."
This is your God, and so ultimately, what these glasses are critique of ideology glasses.
They're Adbusters glasses.
They're Adbusters glasses. They're
all of the stuff. He's flipping through magazines, and they just all say obey, no thought, no creativity.
Right.
It's very ham-fisted, and to me, I think it looks like these glasses were designed by a guy in a Guy Fawkes mask.
Sure. I mean, I think there's something to this idea that it's silly. The way it's presented is silly, but it all tracks, with sort of general left thought of what
it's not quite there.
No, I mean it's simple.
It's one of those things where I run into a lot of left liberals, your rad libs, your Bernie voters. No offense, Bernie people on here, but they have a critique of consumerism. They don't like it. I used to be like this too. I really didn't like consumerist culture, but I didn't have a good explanation of why. Consumerism they don't like corporatism. None of them ever really make that leap to critiquing a system-wide critique of capitalism.
Yeah, it's not this is a feature, not a bug thing.
It's it's not that capitalism is bad. It's that we're just doing it wrong. Right.
Yeah, I mean, so we'll get back to this. Why I think this point about it being a critique of ideology glasses is actually interesting and important to making this film meaningful. But among all these very stark messages he finds, he starts discovering that some of the people around him, a surprising number of the people, aren't people. They're, I think we're supposed to assume, or we and later find out, confirmed, aliens.
Yeah. So they look like skeleton people.
Yeah.
They can still talk, though.
They don't have lips.
They don't have lips, but they can say, B words.
Yeah,
P sounds and M's.
Tisk, tisk, John Carpenter.
Yeah.
Tisk, tisk.
Bothered me the whole time.
Yeah, it's, so this is, I think, cool. Maybe I said this, I don't think I did. there's a lot of sort of, especially once it gets black and white, you start seeing these aliens, and you start seeing a lot of imagery that's sort of reminiscent of these alien invasion movies from like the 50s and 60s, where the aliens are stand-ins for communists and people like, the red neighbor next door.
But in this case, they're stand-in for capitalists.
But yeah, all the aliens are like are bourgeois or petty bourgeois.
Every single one is a yuppie.
They're all yuppies.
Or they're actually like rich. There's the lady talking about Lamaze glass.
Yeah.
She's clearly like wealthy.
Yeah.
She has a servant like putting things into her car for her.
Right. And they're all assholes. And,
they are.
And it's rad. It's turning the trope on its head, and I think that's very, very cool.
Something that bugged me in this is he sees these people. I mean, clearly I would find it very jarring to like put on a pair of glasses and see that like half the people around me are alien skeleton creatures. But he immediately like is very certain that they are here doing something nefarious, controlling things. And I don't really... Is it just like this effect that the glasses have on his brain? Or how does he know?
Well, so what I think...
Like, he's very hostile toward them. He isn't just, like, scared. He's like, ew, you're disgusting and ugly, and, like, yelling at them.
I think maybe I wouldn't have the same reaction, but he gets that he's looking at... So one of the tells, I think, is he's walking down the street, and above... crosswalk signs, there are these little dishes that are just saying sleep. Sleep.
I guess he's had that primer of the video, the guy hacking the airwaves, so he knows there's a they that he needs to be worried about. Yeah,
he has a little bit of a primer. He's seeing evidence that like there's some scary shit around that no one told me about. And suddenly there are these aliens, and I think he gets that the signs that are like, conform and stuff like that are, he's looking at the real world all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And
he doesn't really respond to it in a very good way, in my opinion. I would have been a little more careful if I were him.
Well, and again, so this is tracking back to the sort of trauma that comes from like shifting your ideological lens in like a really dramatic way.
Yeah.
And most people, so he immediately goes on like a killing spree.
Yeah.
People, he's like really, like you said, outwardly hostile.
And they start following him and talking into their watches.
Yeah, they have these little, like...
And he gets cornered by some police, beats the shit out of them.
Yeah, he uses his wrestling moves to, like, totally destroy some cops and
then he
steal their guns.
Steals their guns and walks into a bank without... I don't think he realizes it's a bank, but he's just walked into a bank with a rifle or a shotgun. And so, of course, everybody freaks out.
There's that famous line of...
I came here to chew bubblegum and kick ass, but I'm all out of bubblegum.
Which is like an incredibly stupid line, but like
I didn't know that line was from this movie.
Yeah.
I've never heard of this movie till recently, but I'd heard that line.
Yeah, and I don't get why that... I mean, it's part of why it stuck is because he's not a great actor and he doesn't deliver that many memorable lines throughout this movie, but... why this permeated popular culture at all is totally beyond me.
Maybe people are making fun of this movie.
It's possible.
I mean, I've heard my mom say this. I don't think
no fucking way.
I don't think she's like seen this movie.
Well, we should start investigating when we hear people use this line in real life. Say, why are you using this line? And we're gonna get back to we're gonna trace it backwards.
Yeah, so his response to being in a bank that people immediately assume he's robbing is to deliver a very corny, campy line, and then just starts shooting people.
Yeah, just
aliens. They're
just
not people.
Aliens.
But he is shooting. For everyone else, the casual observer, a man has walked into a bank and started blasting people away with a shotgun.
Yeah, like 12 people. And he casually escapes out the back. There's this little... He sees the first of these, like saucer robots flying through the sky. They look like flying Roombas. Tracking him down. He talks to it. He says it's not very nice or something. Yeah. And then he shoots it. And then he goes and essentially, I mean, he kidnaps a woman.
In a parking garage.
To help him evade police. Her name's
Holly Thompson. Played by Meg Foster.
Yeah. And she successfully evades police and brings him to her house. And we have another... he takes off the glasses and he says, like, oh, they feel like a drug.
Yeah, coming down is... something. I don't know.
And so, which sort of brings us back to like the Hoffman lenses thing.
Oh yeah, so the Hoffman lenses. Have we talked about?
I mean, we talked about they call them that.
Yeah.
But there are two notable Hoffmans that I could think of. There's Albert, who invented LSD.
Right.
Which makes sense in the whole like. Doors of perception, shifting reality thing.
Yeah, especially with how many people think that LSD actually like awakens your third eye or whatever.
And then we have Abby Hoffman, who started the Yippies and was one of the main. He was an anarchist, and he was one of the main organizers of the '68 Democrat Convention protest that was so infamous and wild.
A hippie and a yippie.
Yeah, we have a hippie and a yippie. I mean, Hoffman was a chemist who just took a bike ride. Or Albert Hoffman was a chemist who just took a bike ride. He wasn't like a hippie as such. But whatever the case, I feel like it's got to be a reference to one of them. I don't know which one, but I like the idea that that Carpenter was thinking about both of them.
Yeah, I like to think that Abby Hoffman would have come up with better branding, catchphrases, messaging, propaganda. But,
But, again, he offers this woman who he kidnapped tries to get her to put on the glasses, and she's like...
No.
Yeah.
Well, she says, I'll put them on, but if I don't see what you see, I'm still going to say whatever.
Yeah.
She basically is like, I'm going to pretend that I'm seeing whatever you're saying because you have a gun.
Yeah. She eventually knocks him out.
Well, first she reveals that she works for the TV station that they're trying to hijack the signal of.
Yeah.
And then he jumps up and runs to the TV to tell her about this, and then she smashes him over the back of the head with a bottle and throws him out a window.
Right.
Pretty badass on her part.
Which is the appropriate response to all of this.
Yes. That's exactly what I hope I would do if somebody kidnapped me. Is smash them in the back of the head and throw them out a window.
She has these kind of creepy lizard eyes, and like...
She does.
She doesn't look trustworthy.
No offense to Meg Foster, but...
yeah, they're
eyes are like transparent almost.
They're wild, but she does the absolute correct thing and knocks this dude through a fucking window. But he leaves his glasses behind. He successfully evades the police again and wanders around, and in this fucked up state comes and finds Frank again.
Yeah.
Who he'd really like to put on the glasses.
Well, he appears at the job site. Yeah. Because the thing I would do, personally, after going on a killing spree and kidnapping a woman is show up to work.
Right. Normal thing to do.
But, I mean, he's hiding behind, like, some barrels or something, and whispers to Frank, and Frank tells him to fuck off, basically.
Right. And it's... Frank eventually tracks him down because Frank is a good dude.
Yeah, Frank
throughout
is a
this.
fucking comrade and a half.
And Frank is like, I got you a week's pay.
I had no
even
idea
though
how he did
he
that.
was there for like maybe 2 or 3 days tops.
Yeah.
And Nada would really like Frank to put on the glasses. And they get into a...
Frank absolutely refuses. Frank wants nothing to do with Nada. He's like, I'm helping you out. I got you money, but like,
But you just killed like 28 people.
You're terrifying, dude.
And I got a wife and kids somewhere who I gotta feed.
Yeah.
And George Nada is like, nah, you gotta see this. And they get into, I mean, it's kind of cool. I don't actually think it's like a 9-minute fist fight.
It's a ridiculous fight scene. It goes on for far too long.
But it is.
They both should have been like knocked out and had serious brain injuries several times.
Yeah, I mean,
nobody would survive a beating like
they're
this.
They're in like a concrete alley. It's
It's in the middle of the fucking day. Nobody hears it or calls the police or anything.
Yeah, I mean, again, the Keith David, who plays Frank, is a trained boxer.
Yeah.
And Roddy Piper is a professional wrestler. So actually the fight is, I think, I don't really like action movies. I'm not super into shit like this, but like it's pretty badass.
Carpenter was like, I got 2 different kind of expert fighters on my cast, so I'm going to get the most I can out of them.
But again, I think this scene is actually kind of important and it's about
the resistance,
the violence that is inherent in shifting your worldview.
Right, it's the resistance people put up to being convinced of anything.
Right, and it's it's the same thing, when you and I'm the same way to a certain extent. I don't react the same way lots of other people do, but like when you walk into a restaurant and you ask for something and you're told no, like, we're out of it or whatever, people get fucking mad. People are like angry at you personally for like not having a thing or being told
threatened.
Right.
When I've worked at restaurants and had to tell somebody no.
Right. And it's because this like little bit of your understanding of reality and how it's supposed to work has been proved wrong, because you thought you could go in there and you could get that, a sandwich that has all the ingredients that you want on it, but suddenly no. And this is like a really big thing. This is the world is black and white. There are aliens everywhere, and they're controlling us. And
this is
a violent shift.
I could get my mom to agree my mother agrees with me about net neutrality, single payer health care, basically all the social safety net stuff. She voted for Jill Stein, despite being a registered Republican. I can talk.
She's very pro Crystal.
My mom is pretty progressive on a lot of things, despite being a registered Republican. But I cannot get her to have a real critique of capitalism at all. Like, she's just like, no. Capitalism is good. If you work hard, you should be rewarded for it. I'm like, I'm not saying that you shouldn't, but she really thinks that some people deserve to have more things than other people.
I don't think you should have to work hard at all.
But I think that if you do work hard, you should
be comfortable.
Yeah. I mean, I also think that you should be able to earn the means of your protection.
Right.
We're getting onto a tangent. We can't do these tangents. I'm sorry, everyone.
No, that's okay. But eventually, Nada wins the fight and forces the glasses on Frank, and Frank is
traumatizing for Frank,
but
who is also just like the shit beat out of him.
Yeah, it's been a rough afternoon for Frank, but they have a second pair of sunglasses now because
Because he jumped into the garbage truck and got them out.
Right.
When we were discussing why a trash can is a bad place to hide things, we forgot to mention it's because a garbage truck comes along and he has to jump into the back of it to retrieve his box of sunglasses, which all of the sunglasses have spilled out, and he has like 2 pairs now. Mess.
But they're buddies again. Again, this is we've sort of they're shifting roles in this all the time. Frank started as like
a contentious relationship,
right, and now they're like again, it's sort of like a drug, but they're like stumbling down the street together, just like staring at stuff. It might also just be
the head injuries from being beat so much.
There's like a pile driver into the concrete, and it's like it looks like it was hurt. But they meet one of the guys from their camp initially who was working at this church, and he invites them to this meeting with other, like resistors, and they get there, and it's like really, this is something that I don't think leftist movements should be doing, but there's just like a table full of guns that they're just like offering to people who walk in.
I mean, I have opinions about arming the proletariat and gun control, and I'm sure all of you can guess what they are. You can check out my Twitter page.
We should vet our comrades a little bit, though.
Yeah, no, we should not. Like the first person who stumbled, like they've stumbled into a meeting the first time, they're covered in blood.
Yeah, they're a huge mess.
They're like, I found these sunglasses and I was invited to your meeting. Those aren't the people you hand guns to.
No, not necessarily.
No, I mean, like, you don't even really want to give them the phone list.
No, but they're there and they're discussing tactics and they're like underwhelmed with how many people showed up and things like that. But then our girl Holly is there.
With clutching these glasses.
Yeah.
I put the glasses on.
And she's disputing the idea that the signal that's making everyone's brains
not see the
aliens or the truth is
they
coming
know
from
it's coming from a TV station.
Yeah. She says it's not hers.
Right.
But then there's some things here that come up here that I think are kind of weird.
Okay.
The big one, so the aliens, so the first one is that they said the aliens colorized everything.
They didn't, though. They said they mentioned about television being colorized or something.
I think they said they colorized our world.
Yeah, but, okay, I'm going to disagree with you. I personally believe that the black and white is just merely a device in the film to like show when the glasses are on. And there's a reason I think this, but I don't want to spoil the ending.
I mean, we could spoil. Oh, okay. Actually, that might make sense. This all does make sense. So
when we get to the ending, I'm going to come back to why I think you're wrong.
Okay,
here.
So I thought this was like just before this movie got made, there was Ted Turner started colorizing all these
like Shirley Temple movies and stuff.
Yeah, all these old movies for Turner Classic Movies. And there's this big backlash happening. Like Siskel and Ebert did this whole special about the colorization of movies and how it's ruining film or whatever.
You can still get the black and white version. I never understood this, like, freaking out because somebody, I don't know. It's not like he went and colorized all of the copies of that film.
No, it's not like it's actually not super important. I mean, to actual people who like love film, maybe it's super important. But I mostly thought that Carpenter might be like doing a wink and a nod to this.
Okay. So the world really was black and white. That's why old movies are black and white.
Yeah, I don't know.
Everything was black and white in the past.
I had that
thought
that was maybe what the claim was, but I wasn't sure. But that's the other thing. There's this color, not color thing that's going, and the sleep is another one of those big things. I think there are Wizard of Oz crossovers. I don't think we need to talk too much about that, but I think there are parallels to Wizard of Oz in this movie.
Oh, like her falling asleep in the poppy field.
Yeah, and just like her needing to wake up is like the general theme, and there's this color and black and white thing, and when she wakes back up, she's in
back into the black and white world. Right. Interesting. Okay. So there's also a point in here where they talk about the aliens started arriving in the 50s. Speaking of like everything being black and white in the past. So this is another one of those things that I see reactionary people on both like the liberal spectrum and the right wing kind of looking back to the 50s as this perfect time.
Right.
That if we could just get back to the 50s, the way things were, then we wouldn't have all this problem. On the right wing, it's like, well, on both actually, it's like the problem with society today is not capitalism, it's moral breakdown.
Right.
And I think it's just such a silly, like, yes, for white people, white working class and middle class people, it was pretty good times. The social safety net was much broader. Not that anybody on the right will ever admit that this is part of the issue, is that that's completely broken down. College was affordable. Housing was not so astronomically expensive. Unions were strong. I think the corporate tax rate was like 90%.
Yeah, it was much higher.
So,
I mean, there were like wonderful things about how we were like economically set up in the 50s, but it only
applied to white people.
Yeah.
There were still hundreds, thousands of people
Jim
who were
Crow
left out of
still
this.
A thing.
People were living in desperate poverty. It's just that it was much more sharply along racial lines. And it is still very sharply along racial lines today, but at the time, I think it was even more so.
Yeah, I mean, it was a clearer stratification. You know, like the 80s were this time when like urban white poverty could be a thing, and so suddenly there was this like whoa, wait, let's look back to when things were good.
Yeah, and what was different? Well,
to
you know, June Cleaver was on TV,
right?
And it's such a silly mindset. Like people want to act like teen pregnancy didn't happen in the 50s.
Yeah.
Or there were no single mothers.
There were more.
There was no alcoholism or drug use.
There was more.
There was no crime.
I don't know about that. Crime spiked pretty hard in the 80s, but...
Yeah, but people are still doing this and crime is at an all-time low.
Yeah.
Teen pregnancy, all-time low.
Teen drug use was dropping like crazy.
Yeah.
But whatever, and then additionally to that, they go into this statement about how climate. They make a statement about climate change, but they blame it on this idea that they're like terraforming the planet to make it more hospitable for them. Which, like, fuck you, just like make the critique. I get it that it is a sci-fi movie.
Well, and they're claiming that pollution is worse in the 80s than it was in the 50s, but that's not true.
I don't know. Yeah, I have no idea.
Fucking like lead paint.
Oh, yeah.
Leaded gasoline. Like there were far fewer environmental regulations in the 50s.
This is true.
There might not have been as much carbon in the atmosphere, but that doesn't mean that there was less pollution. And climate change becoming a thing that we talked about in the 80s was only because we had finally been able, like, it had been discovered by science, A, and B, we broke past the barrier of Exxon gagging everybody who wanted to talk about it. These things were still problems in the 50s.
Right. And it's just like, it's this weird fucking idea of like I get that they're, the turn of the century, like mills and mines and shit like that were just like absolutely killing everyone
Everything
who worked in
London
it.
was like the whole London fog that people talk about was just industrial like emissions.
Right.
There's a species of moth that changed color. It evolved to change color to blend in with like blackened, soot-covered London.
Oh man.
I really wish I knew what
clever.
it was called right now.
No, yeah, I don't remember what that. I know what you're talking about, but I don't remember what it's called. But yeah, I mean, it's just a movie that like stops short. I guess I can't ask the world. It'd be really cool if they were like, the aliens have been with us forever, and they created this like
horrible thing called capitalism. The aliens came along and they enclosed the commons.
But then I guess like Marxists would be like, well, that kind of, fucks up our dialectics of history, thing that aliens came in and did capitalism. But, that's, it's
yet another instance of, God, I just want somebody in popular culture to just say capitalism. Just say it. Just say it.
I mean,
say that critique it. I mean, it's weird to me that it's like this, such a taboo to say there's a problem with capitalism, even in like a roundabout way in a movie.
I mean, I think I have some movies that we're going to talk about that I'd like to talk about that don't say capitalism is a word, but do get down to that nitty gritty of it. That will be coming up soon. But they, whatever the case, police fucking raid the hell out of this meeting and just like gun down everyone there.
They blow up a wall and then just start shooting. Which I think maybe was a little over the top.
It was very over the top. I mean, the whole last 20 minutes of this movie are
Black
way
Panthers, but
over
not
the top.
Quite to that degree.
No, like the whole wall came down.
And they just fired into a crowd of people.
Our heroes, George and Frank, teleport using one of their cell phone watches.
Which they've stolen this technology from the aliens.
Right. They teleport to what looks like an underground lair, but it's also
like
extra dimensional. Where they see this party where one of the aliens is announcing to everyone in the room, some of which are aliens, many of which are just people who are essentially like class traders.
Yeah. When they meet one.
They meet
who they know.
Yeah, they meet a guy from the camp who was one of the people annoyed that the TV was getting fucked up with the transmission.
Yeah, he wanted to watch his soaps or whatever.
Yeah. But the alien making a speech is talking about how much wealthier they're going to be this quarter. And
that part, yeah. It just looks like a board meeting or like not a board meeting, like a fancy dinner.
Yeah, it's just a fancy party, but it's just them
something
being
that
like,
you can definitely see happening.
It's very much like that gentleman to evil, kind of thing. And we learn that they can travel back to their home world and all this other stuff, and it doesn't really matter. And they eventually,
but also that this is like a series of tunnels that they can use to get around the city.
And they eventually make it back to this TV station where we learn the satellite transmitting the signal definitely is.
Yeah, it's on the roof.
And
the signal being this signal that is keeping everybody from seeing the truth.
Yeah. Everybody, I think.
Yeah, I don't this is a weird thing. It's implied that this signal is based in LA, but I don't know if it's only controlling the people in LA or if it's controlling the whole world. Do people in Hollywood think that LA is the whole world?
Yeah.
It's possible.
Yeah, I mean, Hollywood is a weird place. I don't think of John Carpenter as a super Hollywood guy, but his idea that maybe this could also be like one of those fun critiques of Hollywood as such. But like so as eventually they get up. Well, Nada gets up to the roof. Frank meets what's Holly, who
Old creepy eyes.
has crossed back and caps him in the head.
Yes. Turns out she's a bad guy.
Yeah, she's a bad guy.
She knew she came to the meeting to bring the cops there, I think.
I think that must be it.
Yeah.
But the aliens have got her to some extent, and
she's a human, but she's on the side of the aliens.
Right,
She's another class
traitor. But George Nada gets to the roof. He destroys the satellite and gets killed in the process. And theoretically,
I don't really get how he destroys it. He shoots it with like a handgun, and it just fucking explodes. And then there's a helicopter, and it's got a laser gun, and it looks like it's shooting the satellite. I think it's trying to shoot. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
This last scene was the last like 10 minutes of this movie are an absolute mess.
Yeah, but we suddenly the smoke screen goes away.
Yeah, so there's people in a bar.
And I get where you're getting at.
Yes. So everybody's still seeing in color.
Everyone's still seeing in color.
They're watching, there's people in like a pub and they're watching the news. And all of a sudden everyone notices that the newscasters, the anchors are these skeleton aliens. There's one dude at the bar who's a skeleton alien, and he's just frozen because he's just like, fuck, they see me.
The jig is up.
And then we see the only tits in the whole movie.
Yeah, and then they remind us, I mean, one of the things about this movie is it's super duper campy.
Super campy.
And
it's like the creature from the Black Lagoon levels of campy.
Yeah, and they really shove it in your face in the very last scene of the movie.
We have a woman
passionately engaged
in
sex.
Stop. I'm trying to think of like a way to describe her posing without being rude. Anyway, you can see her boobs and she's having a nice time, and then she like opens her eyes and her partner is a skeleton alien. And he's like, "Oh, baby, what's the matter?" or something.
Yeah, and she screams.
It reminded me of Beetlejuice really
strongly.
A little bit.
But yeah, they just like hit you over the head in the very last moment of the movie that this is supposed to be a campy movie.
Yeah.
Which I think is cool and honest, and I'm about, you know.
Yeah, it was funny. It had a very like 80s cheese ending to it.
Right. But yeah, I think They Live is a cool movie. I'm happy that I mean, it suffers from lots of it doesn't go far enough, like what movie would, but it doesn't go far enough.
There's a lot of like unexplained things.
There's this critique of culture, but they still like fall on like this like handsome white dude with big muscles and big hair to to be the star of it.
Yeah.
There's, he also like kidnaps an unwitting lady and things like that.
I mean, it's justified in the end because she turns out to be a bad guy.
Yeah.
But I think that's like the movie coming up with a way to justify him kidnapping this woman. Would she
even have been approached by the aliens if she wasn't engaged with him in the first place?
Yes. She was already in on it. She was like higher up at the TV station.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe, okay.
She was in on this.
From the get-go.
When she calls, you think she's calling the police after she throws him out the window. But she's very calm, like, oh, no, I'm okay.
Oh, she's definitely talking to alien supervisors.
Yeah, she wasn't talking to the cops. Fuck. Nobody talks to the cops that calmly.
Oh, that's true. Oh, fuck. You're blowing my mind here. Okay. But yeah, go watch They Live. It rules. I love John Carpenter. I think I've not seen all of his movies, but all of his movies that I have seen, I would highly recommend.
It was pretty good. I liked it.
Yeah, I think that's all we have to talk about. We're running over an hour now, which is plenty long. So yeah, thank you all for listening to episode 2. I think this one was maybe better
I hope so.
than episode 1.
Give us some feedback.
Yeah, we love
Nice
feedback.
Be nice to me.
Yeah, just nice feedback.
No, it's okay. If you have critiques, I'd love to hear them.
Yeah. Follow us on at Popcorn Pod.
Yep.
I'm El Barto Army, at El Barto Army on Twitter.
I'm at Pinko_snob.
And we'll be back next week with another
exciting film.
Yeah, wonderful take about a exciting film.
All right.
Anyways, thanks again.
Bye.
Bye.